Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to SimPlay Motorsport here for your final race action of the week. It is COTA here for the pros for the third time this week. A thrilling Pro-Am and GT4 race sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday evening provided some great drama and great action throughout the whole of SimPlay Motorsport. But it's the turn of the big boys. 15 cars only tonight to take to the circuit in what is a smaller grid than normal, but the pros have seemed to have died off once again towards the back end of the season. I'm joined with my co-commentator Phil Raiden in the box tonight. Phil, good evening. Are we looking forward to this one? Excuse me.
Yeah, even Matt. Yeah, let's see how many track limits the pros can get. Because what was it, 8 last night in Pro?
9.
9. And someone had 3 in a row. DJ Phil from GT4s as well. Yeah, COTA. I'm not a fan of COTA.
No, I have to agree with you on this one. It is on paper, the idea of having parts of the best circuit around the world is brilliant. I don't think it's been executed.
No. And stop copying other people's homeworks. Like with Beckett's section and the Istanbul corner. Yeah, I much prefer the original circuits based on.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Phil. But you know, we're here. This is what we've got for tonight, isn't it? It's going to be interesting to say the least. And at the minute, some of the pace we're seeing from the boys out front, Mike Mathew, Fraser O'Brien, Dan Davis has got a bit closer, but in the pre-session lobby before resetting, Dan Davis was not on the pace of Skunky or O'Brien in the mid-205s. So more pace to come, but the track is fast, and Overtake is now out doing a lap time. We know he doesn't normally like to go out until it's Optum, but he's now out on track. Machado, Gary Leach in the pit lane. Gary's only just got in. The problem is, while there is only limited cars on the track, the track isn't going to get optimum quickly. Good evening to Rob Smith in the chat. Fury's granddad as well. Thank you very much, Tony, for the happy birthday. Paul Williams is in the chat as well as Skunky in there as well. So good evening to everybody who is currently watching in the chat this evening. Phil, it's going to be a cracking night of action. But Ferrari looked last night like they was the dominant car. Are we expecting more of that today?
Well, in hands of Skunky or O'Brien or maybe even Mike coming out of nowhere and RKO and everybody and getting a race win, and not with Dan slowing down to let him have a race win at Valencia.
Yeah, Mike looking pretty good at the moment out there on the circuit, but he's got that of Fraser O'Brien and Skunky around him. It is going to be an interesting night's worth of action around this track, Phil. Dan's Lexus has seemed to struggle throughout the testing this week. Thank you, Skunky. Thanks for the birthday messages. Thank you very much. And for Rob Smith, thank you a lot there. Learned COTA over the past few nights. Actually froze pretty well. So Rob Smith enjoys COTA. But Dan's Lexus, Phil, we know it's good and mighty in a straight line. Is it going to struggle through the S's and that Hockenheim Istanbul section area?
Yeah, because... and it's really going to struggle next week at Alton. But Alton's like a footpath in places, so that may help Dan if he qualifies out front. But
Alton is what I'm looking forward to seeing in the GT4s, to be fair. A bit smaller car, that should be an interesting one.
Yeah, and if it's chucking it down now in Britain, because I can hear it.
Yeah, well, Mike looked at the weather for the preset of the sessions for after this. It's dry. We're going to have a dry season.
At the moment, unless Donington's going to chuck it down.
I've never prayed for rain at Donington Park more than, for 2 weeks' time.
It's going to be cold, though.
Yes, that is the only saving... Oh, well, I say saving grace.
5 degrees. I'm looking at the long forecast on the Met Office. 4 degrees.
Yep, so there we go.
Here it's going to be 8, so...
So it is a little bit... can we turn Phil's volume up a little bit? Yep, sure thing. I'll get that sorted on my end now.
No, you don't want to hear me. No.
There we go. Phil should be turned up a bit. And we'll get the cars up a little bit as well.
But it's unheard of a winter season going to be dry.
We had more rain in the summer series.
Yeah.
Literally more rain in the summer series. You know, it is what it is. It's going to be an interesting one. So last night, Phil, let's talk about last night a little bit. We saw the BMW look pretty mighty, Machado and Vienna, but Vienna's currently 3 seconds off the pace. We saw the Ferrari look mighty. We've not seen the Mustang yet. Good evening to Chris in the chat. We've not seen the Mustang yet. What are we expecting the Mustang to be able to do?
Well, we're about to find out because Overtaker is now circulating, I believe. Yeah, he is. He should be actually on a lap. He's now just gone through the Maggers and Beckers part of the circuit, which goes the wrong way, I might add. But I got a feeling the Ferrari is looking the best car here. I hate to say it.
Which is strange, because if we look at the BOP, and I'll read it to you from the Discord, the way the BOP is this week, the Porsche is so heavily BOPed for this week, 26 kilograms. Then it's down to 8 for the Aston Martin, 8 for the Audi, 8 for the Ford Mustang, 6 for the Mercedes, 5 for the BMW, 3 for the McLaren. There's nothing for the Ferrari. And then the likes of the Nissan, Honda, Lamborghini, you know, they all lose weight. Dan loses minus 40 in his Lexus, as does Michael Harris. So really, the Porsche should be the OP car, the clear car around this circuit. And yet we're seeing the Ferrari be dominant.
If the Ferrari's not perfect BOP here then, if it doesn't gain or lose anything. At the moment, it might change over the next update to the game. But
surely with that though, Phil, the Porsche is the stronger car, because that's why they've had to put so much weight on it.
Yeah, and there's Sky. Sky's 9th at the moment, 2 seconds off the pace, roughly at the end of practice. Overtaker goes up to P3 in the Mustang, so right at the death of the session. Machado and Gary are about to complete their laps, and
yeah, Gary doesn't set a time, neither does Machado, so they've
invalidated.
Yeah, invalidated, or only got out there for an out lap. Matt Wright moved up to 9th with his lap time.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now we've got the 20-minute race coming.
Who are you tipping for the 20-minute race, Phil?
Ooh.
Or are we not doing that?
Because he's on pole, because there's so few people here, I think it might be O'Brien, because he's pretty quick in that Ferrari. Yeah, I reckon O'Brien, though. It could be good for Sky, get a good result in home territory before everyone freezes next week at Alton Park. With it like 5 degrees. And that was just rough estimate. But again, that could also change before the race happens.
Apologies, I was just doing the start grid there, the poll. I don't think you can rule out Overtaker as well, Phil, looking at where he starts on the grid.
No, you can't. Cool. I didn't realise Overtaker was that far down now.
Yeah, exactly. Missed a couple of weeks, drops down the tables, but I don't think you can count him out in P4.
P4?
P4. I was kind of going, it was like
P4.
4.5. 4.5. I was going like a 5 into a 4. So he's in between 5th and 4th, but you can't rule Overtaker out. It has been a long season. It's been a long week.
We've got 2 weeks left.
It's been a long week. Yeah, we've got 2 weeks, and we'll get to the end of the 2 weeks, and we'll miss it.
Yeah, but I think we might be all a bit busy eating turkey.
Oh, gobble, gobble, gobble. Can't wait. Right then, the drivers are about to get ready and underway for their formation lap. 15 cars around this COTA circuit. Fraser O'Brien leads us away for the first time this evening, and let's take a look at that grid order. As you can see, for round 19 of the season, it is Fraser O'Brien from Edward Blackmore on the front row of the grid, with Sky Schundelmeyer lining up alongside Overtaker on row 2. Row 3 is Gary Leach and Jamal Clouden. Row 4 then is Pedro Vienna and that of Darren Yeo. Just want to point out there that the graphic is wrong. That is Paolo's car, not Pedro's car. Ben from Machado, P9 and 10. P8 is Darren Yeo with Skunky. Sorry, it's Matt Wright from Skunky. Then it's Mike Matthews and Michael Harris, and Dan Davis at the back on his own. So apologies there for the wrong graphic of that. We had Paolo's car under Pedro Viana. Ian Best, Fraser is quick when he's not hitting everyone, lol. Says Ian Best, will the pros have more or less drive-throughs than last night? Well, there's less of them, so you'd like to think that the chances are a little bit less, but let's wait and see what will happen.
There's also less cars, so you expect a cleaner race, but don't hold your breath. Been here many a time before.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I think that this could be a fascinating one tonight. Yes, with them less numbers on the grid, but I think this track gives us a lot more options with them drive-throughs and things, where drivers aren't possibly going to be pushing as hard as they possibly can.
Well, you'd hope not, because literally some places you can put a wheel off and it gives you a track limit warning. Around here, it's so strict.
This is what I mean. I think that it's just going to provide us, Phil, with some great entertainment. I think because everybody's got to be cautious.
As I said in the chat, should have a drinking game for everyone who gets for those who can drink.
Well,
for everyone who.
I've got a nice chocolate liqueur in front of me.
For everyone who gets a drive-through, take a shot.
I've got a nice chocolate liqueur in front of me, so let's see what happens.
But it still can't be as worse as flinging animal muck and burning.
Oh, nothing will be as worse. Yeah, nothing will be as worse as Bossy's commentary from season 1 of ACC.
And then he passed out, and I had to go into the comms box.
But 339 points in the Drivers' Championship tonight, and if it goes the way that Dan Davis will be wanting it to go, he can put it down to just a 3-horse race after race 1, and that would include his teammate Mike Matthews and Michael Harris. But it's all going to depend on what happens in the race, because Skunky and Matt Wright can keep the championship alive, as could Machado. It's going to be interesting to see. I heard a few rumours already for next season, and I'm not going to go into them, but interesting. I've heard, obviously, we've seen some of the track rumours in the Patreon chat between the admins and between the Patreons. They're also pretty interesting with who and what has been selected. So that is a very interesting one. Good evening to Peaceful Stepdad. Now, I want to give Peaceful Stepdad a shout out here. It isn't only my birthday today, but it is also Peaceful Stepdad's birthday today. So a very happy birthday to Peaceful Stepdad there. And I hope you've had a great day. And hopefully you've come to watch some great racing this evening then, as Fraser O'Brien comes into the final corner for the first time. He's on the front row with Edward Blackmore, Schundelmeyer and Overtaker on the second row of the grid. Who is going to take who is going to take the first race win of the night? Who will be able to do what in this first race as we head uphill towards turn 1 for the first time this evening? Edward Blackmore's a little further back than I think he'd probably like to be here.
Yeah, I was then looking at the screen then.
Well, he gets a good start though up the hill, Phil, as they come. He's now alongside that of Fraser O'Brien. To the outside they go. Overtaker looking up the inside of Schundelmeyer. He's got Gary though up the inside of him. And Gary Leach, I tell you what, great start Fraser O'Brien, but just going to drop back down to Gary Leach, who's got to be on the outside of 2 on Overtaker. He's got ahead of Sky Schundelmeyer. Gary Leach with a decent start there, up alongside Overtaker, but couldn't get the job done. Jamal Cloudon's had a decent start as well. We've all got through turn 1 pretty cleanly, and everybody is through as they'd like to be. Mike Matthews didn't have the best to start, so he's got jumped by his teammate and by that then of Michael Harris as well. So the two Lexus are trying to move forward just a little bit, as we see there Dan Davis getting up past that of Matt Wright then in through the first couple of sections of this circuit. But Fraser O'Brien did exactly what he needed to out from Blackmore, from that of Gary Leach, and it's from that of Overtaker, then Gary Leach. Sky Schundelmeyer has got Jamal Cloudon with Darren Yo, Skunky, Machado, Vienna with Harris and Ben going side by side into the hairpin. Down the start straight, down the back straight they come. They're going to go side by side. On board Dan could be a beautiful camera angle to watch, and here we go. This is on board then with the Lexus, who's going to have that inside line over Michael Harris. Michael Harris tucks back in behind Ben, pulls back out out now because he knows Dan might be having a look up into the corner. Is Dan going to make it 3 wide? No, he's not. Mike Mathews is having a look in the background as well. And through the hairpin they go. There is chaos with Darren Yeo and Skunky. And I believe Machado may have got caught up in that, or is that one Vienna? Not quite sure. But Dan Davis has lost out there then to his teammate Mike Mathews in this one. And Mike still hanging it in there with Dan Davis. We'll find out who it was. But Darren Yeo and Skunky to the back of the pack already. But Blackmore and Gary have Overtaker and Gary have passed Edward Blackmore already as well. Thank you, Chris, for the kind words. Good evening to Tracy as well. But Ben now being overtaken by the BMW off Pedro Vienna, and Mike Mathews is sat there waiting in the wings as well as they come into the penultimate corner.
Yep. What a start really by Gary. He's up to P4.
Yeah.
Where did he come from?
Yeah, great start from Gary Leach as he heads down towards turn 1 again. He's in that slipstream with the Mustang. You feel the Mustang's going to have the grunt over the Porsche.
But we're now running the section where the Porsche have the better handler.
Yeah. And Gary on the wheel will probably have a bit of better handling as well. As down towards Sky Shundrum, we see Jamal Cloudon's gone up the inside. And absolutely lovely move there from Jamal. Yep, who's fell out of love with that Mercedes a little bit this season, Phil, and he's made it look good there so far.
He's definitely fallen out of love with that Merc, haven't he? But he's carrying on. He became a Patreon this week, didn't he?
He did
as
indeed.
Well.
He did indeed. His track selection was a nice, interesting one. We're not going to go too much into that until full calendar can be released. But Schundelmeyer on the back of him. Ben still trying to chase down Vienna. Then it's Mike Mathews, Dan Davis, Matt Wright, Machado. Darren Yeo's not a million miles away with Skunky behind him. And Ben at the minute, Vienna at the moment, I say was going to be the Trilly train, but Ben's got past him, and here comes Mike Mathews having a look up the inside in towards the hairpin corner. Mike gets it stopped onto the apex. Lovely move from Mike Mathews. A sooty send it if I've ever seen one up the inside. The problem is the BMW last night was no slouch in a straight line and already gets a better drive out the corner than Mike Mathews. Now Mike's going to come under pressure from his teammate Dan Davis, who pulls out on him now, and Mike, who's going to try and maybe make this 3 wide to get up the inside of Vienna as well. He backs out of that and leaves that one for Dan and Vienna, and Dan gets it stopped, gets the move done on Mike and tucks back in between both of them.
Yep, good move by Dan, but he used the hyperdrive of the Lexus as well. It's like he's got DRS, isn't it?
It is pretty much, yeah, great analogy that, to be fair, like he's got DRS. There was 9 drive-throughs last night in the whole entire evening. Schundelmeyer still on the back of Cloud, who's on the back of Blackmore. Gary Leach just not getting closer to Overtaker at this stage in the race, though. Pedro Vienna is now ahead of that of Dan Davis. Ben's just started to pull away from Pedro Vienna, who takes a different line through the Istanbul section than Dan Davis, and Dan getting a lot closer to the back of Vienna, and Dan not having the strong race that he'd have wanted to, and Harris will close the gap in points around here at the moment. And in towards the final corner, there you come. It's all about traction out the corner. Mike Mathews once again, look, just getting a little closer to the back of his teammate Phil, and he might fancy his chance. The problem is the Lexus is strong in a straight line.
It is, yeah, and Sky's got back in front of Clouden, but they've got Harris now for company.
Oh, Dan's had a lunge into turn 1. Sorry, Phil, he gets a bit of a snap on the rear as we pan the camera out. Has Mike Mathews managed to get past him? No, Dan stays ahead of that of Pedro Vienna. So he has a little slide through turn 1 under the braking. It's a good sending manoeuvre from Davis, and anything Mike can do, Dan can do better. And he moves up into P9. But as you were saying, Sky has got back ahead of Clouden, and now he's fighting Blackmore.
Yeah. So maybe the Porsche is starting to come into it now, as the pit window has now opened.
Oh, Chris, it's terrible for track limits around here. You don't even have to have 4 wheels off the track. You just have 2, and it will ping you for a track limit infringement, as Pedro Vienna now is trying to defend from that of Mike Mathews. But Mike Mathews has gone through, and here comes Matt Wright. And Vienna looks like he's all out of sorts at the minute. And Mike late breaking into the hairpin corner, getting that stopped and turned through the corner he goes. Now Dan will head after Ben. And has Vienna got a problem here? Have the 2 Naval Racing Team cars got a problem? Because Daz has just drove past Emmanuel Machado then. And this is good for Team SPR over that of the Naval Racing Team. They're in a bit of a constructors fight with them in the championship. Naval Racing Team really capitalised last week as Vienna's now... Oh no, it's Machado having a look up the inside of Matt Wright. Sends one, gets it stopped, runs a little deep. But you can run deep though with that corner, Phil, because you'll have the inside line for the next part.
Yep, and Vienna's pretty much follow the leader through this section. It is Kimi Raikkonen. That year he
had when he went up the
over.
Inside, yeah, it was a cracking move.
Beautiful.
And he did it in a NASCAR as well, Phil. Same move, same corner in a NASCAR as well.
I don't think NASCAR's as strict. I don't think NASCAR's as strict on track limits as Formula 1.
No, I don't think so. I've just funny you say that peaceful step. And I've just finished some birthday cake just before we went live. It's absolutely beautiful. Michael Harris pulls the trigger on a pit stop, as does Matt Wright. Darren Yeo, I think he was thinking about it, but doesn't. Dan Davis is also in the pits. Skunky comes into the pits, and Pedro Viana now carries on his way. But it's Fraser O'Brien, 2.5 seconds out from Overtaker, who's dropped Gary a little bit. That gap's 3.8. Sky's 2.2. He's got past Blackmore, like Phil's just said. And now it's Jamal Clouden sat on the back of Blackmore. We can look back from Blackmore through the Maggots Beckett section. Phil, at the minute, Clouden having a good showing, but Sky Schundelmeyer and Gary Leach in the Porsches, probably Porsche's best race.
Yeah, possibly. No, Gary had one winning GP Boston in that manufacturer's title over.
Yeah, it was over last week. Yeah, Ferrari had won it. Looking back from Blackmore though, just dropping. Oh, huge snap from Blackmore there. This could be Clouden's opening. Down the hill they come towards the hairpin corner, and Clouden not close enough. He didn't get a great run through the S's, and Blackmore had a huge moment just after the S's, and it was not what he'd have wanted at all. As we're coming towards the halfway stage of this race, Harris, Dan, Matt Wright and Skunky have all pitted. Skunky's on the back of Matt Wright, in fact. No, he's not close enough as it is there, but Jamal Clouden at the moment is gaining on the back of Blackmore at the moment. Do what Tracy says, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit the bell to be notified. But the Porsches here, I don't think we've seen both Porsches in Schundelmeyer and Gary have as strong a night as this so far.
And Gary having a strong night in race 1 as well. Because he normally dials in the car in race 1.
Gets it ready for race 2, doesn't he? Talk us through the Porsche a bit, Phil, because it's not been great this season, has it?
No, the engine's in the wrong place. Well, these ones are more mid-engine than they used to be, but the engine used to be right at the back, which is not ideal.
Just looking at Clouden here in his fight with Blackmore, as Blackmore pulls into the pit lane. It was looking at Ben. Ben is close to the back of Clouden here. Ben's gone well this second half of the season, as he's been rejuvenated almost, and it seems to have come on very strong.
He has, and he's not actually far from his teammate. He's not far from his teammate.
Clouden's 1.7 behind, so he's about 2.4 off the back of Tibbs, and he's got a little closer to Jamal on this lap already. So already just starting to do a few bits here is Ben at the moment. Been a good young driver to have in the series so far, as Gary Leach has done his stop. Blackmore's also done, so just waiting for Gary Leach. Where is Harris? Lead car is just coming over the start line now. Gary Leach not yet off the limiter. I tell you what, this could be one heck of a jump. Here comes Gary Leach. Here comes Mike Matthews as well. He's jumped out of Edward Blackmore. Gary Leach, well, that was third place. The undercut for Michael Harris, very, very strong. He's come out right behind Gary Leach.
Yeah, and Dan's jumped Mike as well. So, and they've all jumped Blackmore. So let's see what happened when Sky and the others come back in. Take us about 3 seconds off the lead now from O'Brien. O'Brien's eking the lead out.
Yep. Driving well at the minute is O'Brien. Ben's on the back of Clouden, so we'll go back to that fight. One thing we noticed last night, me and Dan PN, was that the undercut was massively strong around this circuit. Pedro Viana's got a quick Darren Yeo trying to get onto the back of him halfway through the race, and Paul went the way of Overtaker to win this one. I think it is going to go the way of the Welshman Fraser O'Brien. Darren Yeo, though, in his Ferrari, just trying to get close to the back of that of Pedro Viana, who just looks like he's struggling a bit today to the Naval Racing boys. And Darren will want this, because he'll want his SimPlay Racing team to finish as high in the points as they possibly can. And Gary's having a decent race at the moment. Darren will want to get past him. Where is Gary? He's got Michael Harris side by side with him, coming down to the bottom end of the circuit. Into the hairpin they go. Gary around the outside of Michael Harris, holds it there. That is a great bit of racing from the pair of them. And Gary will now have the inside line for the next part of the track. Once again, fantastic. Schundelmeyer and Clouden go into the pits, and Gary Leach in a great fight here with that of Michael Harris. As Skunky gets the up and under on Blackmore now as well. Beautiful move from Skunky, and Daz is going to try it around the outside at the Istanbul, at the Hockenheim sort of section of the circuit. Holds it strong for the inside line of the double right-hander, and Darren Yeo, lovely piece of racing from him and Vienna. Great move up into P13.
Yeah, great move by Daz there, and so we've only got the top 3 left to pit.
And this is going to be interesting now. Gary gets one hell of a slide out the final corner. That's going to allow Harris all over the back of him. And here comes Gary. Up the hill he goes. Schundelmeyer and Clouden not yet off the limiter. Here comes Michael Harris as Clouden's off the limiter now. So is Schundelmeyer. But they've been overtaken by these two. Harris up the inside. Gary's probably going to look for the switchback. Oh, gets it an absolute peach. Get your books out, because that is textbook stuff from the two-time champ as Dan Davies is side by side with Sky Schundelmeyer and Gary Leach there. Absolute masterclass of an overtake.
Yeah, but he had a two-time pro champion, well, back on Project Cars 2, with an iron board on
on one of them. Yep.
So what a move by Gary Leach. He wants a podium.
Ben struggled this week for practice time because he's had more homework to do this week. I've just read in the chat from Ben. From Chris, sorry, but he's going good guns at the moment. But Gary Leach, what a move that was, Phil. That was classic Gary Leach, textbook stuff, up and under.
Yep, cool. O'Brien has really dropped overtaker now.
This undercut's going to be interesting to see what will happen. But it's Gary 4th, Michael 5th, Jamal 6th, then Dan Davis, then Schundelmeyer, Mike Matthews, then it's Matt Wright, Skunky Blackmore, Darren Yo. From Pedro Viana, from Machado. Overtaker is into the pit lane then, so let's see where Gary Leach is at the moment. Ben hasn't decided to pit. Yes, he has. You can see the dot changing colour on the track map. So Ben is into the pits. So it's just Fraser O'Brien who can go one more lap. He's going to try and eke every single piece of time he can out of this.
I'll tell you what, this is going to be interesting.
Oh, sorry, Chris has given Ben a bit more time to practice. He's had loads of homework to do before, so that's why he's doing better this second half of the season. He's had that seat time, so great to see from Brand. Taker's done his pit stop, he's on his way out. Gary's not even yet at the final corner. Gary's got a tough 6 minutes as Michael Harris is going to look up the inside in towards the final corner. Gary once again up and under. He is absolutely on form today. We're seeing the Gary Leach of old, and Michael Harris needs to come up with a few new tricks because Gary Leach is come to play today. There's Ben off the limiter, going to look up the inside in towards 2-1, and Gary Leach manages once again to hang it around up the inside. Oh, contact! Was that Ben and Clouden? Dan's had to take avoiding action, and there's Schundelmeyer through, and Mike Matthews possibly through. He's side by side with his teammate through turn 2. He'll have the inside line for turn 3. Does he yield to Dan? Yes, he does. Thinks better of it, and Dan had the better momentum. Michael Harris, though, what has he got to do, PN? Because every time he tries to get past Gary, he's just underneath and back through.
Yeah, I think it's the straight line speed versus the handle and not the Porsche.
I think we're seeing here what Gary Leach we know he's capable of.
Oh, who's car 48 with a track limit?
That's Pedro Viana. Pedro Viana down in 14th place with the first track limits penalty of the night. Gary, a little twitch out of the hairpin corner at the bottom end of the circuit. This could give Michael Harris a run through once again.
O'Brien's in.
And O'Brien pits. He's got a mega lead at the moment. Here comes Gary Leach versus Michael Harris. Lexus versus Porsche. The Japanese power down towards the bottom of the back straight. But we know Gary Leach will be best of the late breakers. Up the inside goes Leach. Harris can't get it around the outside. And Gary manages to hang on in there once again. Absolute textbook stuff this. And the two-time champ Phil is putting on a masterclass.
He is, isn't he? He's got the widest Porsche in the world.
Widest, he has indeed, and Ben is right on the back of these with Schundelmeyer, with Davis, with Mike Matthews, with Skunky. Not quite Matt Wright, so a bit of a train forming behind Gary. But I tell you what, if anybody can take this pressure, if anybody can handle this pressure, it is this man. And Michael Harris fighting for this championship, trying to stay in it for as long as possible. Over Dan Davis, he's going to gain points, but he's relying on Gary to maybe just keep Harris there and let Ben and Schundelmeyer have a look a bit more. Gary over the rumble strips, may have to defend this one a little bit early, as here comes Harris once again. Mike's all over the back of Dan Davis as well in the background. We'll look up to turn 1 though. Harris goes to the inside, pulls up the inside. Has Gary got it done for a third time? Ben thinks of coming back. Gary can't do it! Harris has parked it on the apex, and this time Michael Harris has gave Gary a piece of his own medicine, and now they make a little bit more contact through turn 2, but Harris is on the podium.
Harris is on podium, big points in the championship for Harris. long way behind overtaking though. He's up about 11 seconds up the road.
And Fraser O'Brien extended his gap fill after his pit stop, so he's gone even further ahead. And you just feel for Gary Leach now, although he's closing on Harris in this part of the circuit, he's going to lose out down the back straight. Vienna's in for that drive-through penalty, just dropping back. Look, there's Ben who has a wiggle out the corner, and Sky Schundelmeyer, his teammate, the BSP Racing boys, are together towards the hairpin. Is Sky going to have a look of sending one up the inside on his teammate? What about the SimPlay Racing boys? As Dan tries to cover off Mike a little bit there, but it's one big queue, and Gary Leach has got to hope that Harris doesn't pull too much away down this straight. But if we go on board with Gary Leach, you just feel that Lexus, look at it, just slowly drift away.
Yeah. Won't be able to have a straight line advantage. Alton Park.
Yeah, exactly. Dan Davis getting close to the back of Schundelmeyer, with Mike and Skunky following suit, and Ben all over the back of Gary. We've enjoyed some of Ben and Gary's fights this season, as Mike now possibly just starting to defend a little bit from Skunky. That's going to drop him off the back of Dan. Dan, oh, twitchy in the Hockenheim section. And Mike Matthews might fancy a look here. If that wasn't his teammate, I reckon Mike would have gone and sent it on him. But Gary's trying to come back side by side with Michael Harris. So Gary Leach hasn't let this podium go. He only needs 2 more podiums, I do believe, for that 100th podium. It is 2 podiums, and it's getting closer for Gary Leach to maybe get that, but he's not going to do so at the moment. Schundelmeyer's also there that could possibly get a podium, but it's Gary Leach close to the milestone, and so far for Gary, he's right there with Harris, with Ben, with Schundelmeyer. Mike's past Dan, not seen where, but Mathews is through to try and keep his championship hopes alive.
Yes, yeah, and what would it be like in SimPlay Racing right now?
I know Mike and Dan, and I know the way that SimPlay Racing work. They are gloves off racing to the end of this one. There will be no team orders at SimPlay Racing. It will be gloves off and all action. Gary Leach trying to do well in the Constructors Championship, for the team. Darren Yeo down in 13th place. He's outscoring both the Naval Racing team boys. Gary will want as many points as he can get. Just loses out to Harris though in the straight line. As we can see, Schundelmeyer has now got Mike Matthews hunting him down, and Mike seems rejuvenated tonight, or since Valencia should we say. He's on the back of Schundelmeyer, and knowing Mike, he's going to want some more points. Whoa, big slide out of the corner.
Brown trouser moment coming. You got to be careful of the track limits around here. He's having a little nibble, but not quite.
And he's got to worry now of Dan Davis, Phil, behind him in that Lexus, who's probably going to pull like mad. This is on board with Dan Davis. And let's see him pull that Ferrari in. Not close enough, Dan Davis, this time around. And Mike Matthews got a little bit closer to Sky on the brakes. Gary's just losing out a little bit more now to Harris. Each lap that goes by, Skunky's trying to stick with Dan. Matt Wright's gaining on the back of them two. We've got Clouden having a fight with Darren Yeo and Blackmore. Look at this. Clouden's passed Blackmore. Darren Yeo's now having a look up the inside. Bit of contact made between Blackmore and Darren Yeo, and a bit more contact made as well. And Blackmore gets that position back. Darren Yeo has to give up with that one. Good evening to Tips in the chat. Leader starts the final lap, and what an action-packed 20 minutes race. Gary's got to hold out from Ben, Ben from Tibbs, Tibbs from Mike, Mike from Dan, Dan from Skunky. Matt Wright's not a million miles away, and Blackmore, who has now lost out to Jamal Clouden, has got Darren Yeo there, and a couple more points for Darren Yeo in this one. We'll just hope Team SPR gain on the Naval Racing team, but they've got to be wary of BSP Racing, who aren't a million miles behind them, Phil, in the constructors standing. So absolutely crucial at the moment. He had everything right here. Schundelmeyer having a bit of a look as Dan's going defensive then on that of Skunky in the background. Is Skunky going to look around the outside of turn 1 on Dan Davis? Yes, he does. Skunky, has he got alongside enough? No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. Up the inside of turn 2 goes Skunky. Brilliant stuff at the moment. Ben is side by side with Gary coming into the S's. Gary has to cut a P to the S's. Now Ben has to cut a P to the S's. So they've pretty much negated each other there, and they've gained nothing over each other. And did Dan Davis lose out to Skunky? No, he did not.
No, we're on the final lap, so this is it. But
what an opener!
What an opener, yeah. Only one penalty for track limits. But I'm surprised Gary didn't get one that much off the S's though.
Schundelmeyer defending from Mike Matthews now. Thank you, Mother Davis, for the happy birthday message. Appreciate that one. Hope you're having a good time yourself. in the chat, and what a manoeuvre this is at the moment. Fraser O'Brien, though, will keep our eyes on him coming towards the end. Mike Matthews trying to attack the back of Schundelmeyer down the back straight. Can that Ferrari maybe get close enough to the back of Schundelmeyer? He pulls out. Tibbs goes and defends with him. That is a great defensive manoeuvre from Schundelmeyer there. He did it as late as he did. Mike Matthews up and under. Can't get it as good as Gary Leach. And at the moment then comes back, and Tibbs can't do it, but we have to turn to Fraser O'Brien, who comes into the final corner. And Phil, what a race win from Fraser O'Brien. He won last week. It's a win again today. Fraser O'Brien has been fantastic tonight. A win and the fastest lap for the Ferrari. Great stuff. Overtaker as well. Great drive from him for that second place. Really well done. In this race, Michael Harris then is going to look to come and take P3 and keep hold of it in this championship. At the moment he was P3 last time out, he's P3 again tonight. Gary Leach is going to come home for P4, ahead of Ben, ahead of Schundelmeyer, ahead of Mike, ahead of Dan Davis, ahead of Matt Wright, who got skunky at the end. And then it's Jamal Cloud, and a bit of a breather back there. What a race. Darren Yeo did get past Edward Blackmore. Then it's Blackmore, then it's Machado. And we've got a little bit of time till we get then to the back of that, of Pedro Vienna. But what a race, Phil, to start the night.
Yeah, and look how far ahead O'Brien was at the end, so Ferraris are looking strong. Look how alive Mike's was.
Yeah.
Wright's.
Looking very strong, aren't they? They're looking incredibly strong as Vienna comes to the line now to cross line to finish P15. Well, that is all we have time for in this first race. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be back with race 2.